Hi everybody, I'm Mark Johnson and this is the Photoshop Workbench. When my friend Linda pointed me to the My Design Deals website, I immediately fell in love with the spectacular typeface, layer style, and preset deals that they offer. There are several core values that make this site unique. You can read about them on the How We're Different page. Most importantly though, the founder John provides an abundance of useful and inspiring design examples with each typeface he offers. When I spotted these examples, my mouth watered. I couldn't wait to begin attempting to figure out how some of the beautiful designs were created. In today's tutorial, we'll use several clever Photoshop techniques to recreate the embroidered Hustler's clothing logo associated with the Insomnia Typeface that was part of John's 38 Exceptional Typefaces deal. Now, if you want to check out the My Design Deals website, or you want to read about their core values, or you're curious about these deals that they have, or any of this stuff, I have links to all of it in this introduction. So you'll be able to find everything that I just talked about and things I will continue to talk about through this workbench. So this is what we're going for now. This is being created from scratch. So keep in mind that you get this really nice embroidered look, and you can do this completely from nothing. Now, I also want to show you, very importantly, this is an example of, so here's the Insomnia typeface, and you can see, I'll just zoom this up a little bit, you can see that that's the typeface, and then there are design examples of it, and here's the one, of course, that caught my eye in a big way right here. I was like, I really love that. But here are some other examples. And for each typeface he offers, that's part of his deals, his collections, he has design examples. There are a lot of really good ones. If you have any interest in designing with type, or for that matter using layer styles, which we'll use a lot of today, then you really should check out his site. So I've got a link to that in my introduction here. All right, we're going to begin this process. We're going to choose File, New, creating a new design. We'll go with 3600 pixels by 2400 pixels. Don't worry about the resolution. It doesn't matter when you're working with pixels. RGB color, 8-bit, white. This is all lovely. So go ahead and press OK. By the way, when you're designing on your own and not watching this tutorial, you could certainly go with a bigger size than what I have here, or a smaller size for that matter. All right, so here, let's get that out of the way. Here is our document. And the first thing we want to do is create, and I'm just going to drag this back and forth so we can see it, this fabric background that you have right there. Now, you could certainly capture that with your camera. Save yourself a lot of time. If you have a good fabric pattern to capture, go ahead and do it with your camera. I don't have that fabric pattern, and I couldn't find one really easily. So I decided, well, I'm going to use one of my favorite third-party programs, which is FilterForge. And there's a filter in FilterForge listed in my introduction. It's called Knitted Fabric, and it allows you to create a beautiful knitted fabric look. This is created inside FilterForge, so this is not photographed, although it really looks like it was photographed. So I went ahead and generated this out as a square document, and I checked the seamless box so that I could apply this seamlessly to a document as big as I could possibly ever want. And so if you're interested in FilterForge, I have a link to it in my introduction. There's a 50% discount on FilterForge. I also have a link to a tutorial, Photoshop Workbench 285, that talks about generating a seamlessly tiled texture. So you can learn all of that with my other resources. But here I have a knitted fabric preset. I'm going to go ahead and simply define this as a pattern. Okay, so I'm going to choose Edit, Define Pattern, just like that. And I'll go ahead and leave this name in here. That's fine. Press OK. And now I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. I'm back in my design document here, and I am going to apply this as a pattern fill layer. So you can come down here and get to the pattern fill layer, or you can choose layer, new fill layer, and pattern. Either one works fine. I'll press OK, and it's automatically going to give me my latest defined pattern right here. So you're seeing that right off the bat. Now, since it's seamless, I can scale it and I won't see any edges. And so I want to go ahead and scale this down to 50%. So it's a finer weave. I'm going to go ahead and press OK. All right, so we have that, but you can see, unlike this example, it's not brown right now, and it needs some other things. There's other stuff going on in here. There's uneven wear, and there's some bend to the fabric, and there's even some blurred corners there. So we can do all of this in Photoshop, and it's a lot of fun to do. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go ahead and convert this layer to a smart object. So I can do that by choosing filter, convert for smart filters. That's a real fast way to get to a smart object. That's going to allow us to do a bunch of things non-destructively or fully reversibly to this layer. Now we're going to warp it. So we're going to bend this layer. We'll choose Edit, Transform, Transform Warp. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down a little bit. I'm using spacebar and Option and then a click to shrink it down. Now I'm going to just drag these corners, just sort of bend this around so that it is being bent like that. Let's go ahead and bend that out a little more. There we go. And I'll click the check up there, and you can see we went from here to here. So now it doesn't look perfectly symmetrical. Lines aren't straight. Things are kind of bent a little bit. We're trying for the authentic look here, and so we're going to do lots of little things like this. Now let's go ahead and convert this to black and white, and we're going to do that by adding an adjustment layer. So go into the Adjustments panel, which you can find listed alphabetically right here, and we're going to add a black and white adjustment layer. Now in here, you can, at any point in time, because it's an adjustment layer, you can cycle through these presets and find the one that gives you the look that you want. Now, a lot of things I'm going to show you right now, I arrived at these conclusions just by sliding through menus and pulling sliders and doing things like that. So a lot of what I'm showing you, I didn't, just know what I wanted. I played around. That's the key to Photoshop. Get in there and really play around. So I'm going to go with lighter, which adds a little more contrast, brightens things up a little bit. Not a big change, but again, through my playing around, that's what I arrived at. Now I'm going to go add a hue saturation adjustments layer. So back to the Adjustments panel. We're going to click right here to add a hue saturation adjustment layer. This is where we will do our toning. All right, so I'm going to check the colorize box, and then I'm going to set some values here that will give me a brown tone. So let's go with 23. We'll go with a little less saturation, and again, you'll see why in just a moment. None of this was a linear path for me. It's so important to understand. It's all a creative process. I was like just moving sliders and trying blend modes and seeing what would happen. All right, so that's a nice brown, but it's not this brown. So what we need to do is change the blend mode of this toning hue saturation layer from normal to multiply. And when we do that, we get that lovely brown. But now I want to add a little bit of wear to this. So we're going to use some nice tricks for that. We're going to choose Image Duplicate. Don't worry about naming it. And then we're going to take this duplicate document and choose Image Adjustments, HDR Toning. Go ahead and flatten away. That's fine. It's a duplicate. Pull out your saturation and crank up your detail. That's going to add some more detail, some more contrast to these edges. I'll go ahead and press OK. And now I want to take this and do a Select All, Edit, Copy. Don't need that anymore. I don't need to save it. Come over here and choose Edit, Paste. Now, in order to get this to add a little extra kind of wear to this, we need to change this blend mode to Soft Light. So that's bringing out this lighter version. This more contrasty lighter version will represent areas where they've worn a little bit more. All right, so they're going to have a little bit less of the color. So we're going to take this layer right here and fill or add a mask that's filled with black. So I'll hold Option. or Alt on a PC and click right here to add a black filled mask. Now we're going to paint on this, and we want it to look like where, so we'll grab the brush and we'll come over here to one of Photoshop's standard brushes. It's this one right here. It's 59, spatter 59 pixels. Alright, I need to make it substantially larger to add my wear. Now if I were to just paint with black, and I'll go ahead and swap this by tapping the arrow or the X key. Actually, I want to paint with white. What am I saying? There we go. Yeah, see, the mask is black. There we go. So see how that adds some wear? Pretty cool that you can do that. That's a little bit too intense for the wear. I want to tap 5 to set my opacity to 50%. Now I'm going to click here, and maybe here, out here, and then perhaps right in. Let's see if we can get it. There we go. So now we have a little bit of uneven wear. If you feel that the edges of your wear are too defined, like that, with the mask active here, you can double click it, and then you're in the properties panel and you can non-destructively feather it. So you're softening the edges of the wear when you do this. So I'm going to go ahead way up high like that. And now you can see my mask is like this. So those gray areas represent areas of wear that we have added to this. They're subtle, but those subtle things make a big difference. Alright, so this is looking good. Now what we're going to do is merge all these layers together. So hold Option or Alt and choose Layer, Merge Visible. So I've got a composite merged layer here at the top of the stack. And this one is going to allow us to do some blurring in these corners. So I'm going to choose to convert this to a smart object. Then I'll go Filter, Blur Gallery, Field Blur. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and set my field blur to a pretty low value. I want a subtle amount of blurring. Let's go with maybe 6 pixels. Pickles. Oh, I love it. My voice, it just, sometimes it works. Often it doesn't. 6 pixels. Press OK. There's some blurring, but I want to isolate that to just the corners. So I'll add a black filled mask by holding Option or Alt when I click right here on the front loading washer. And now I want to paint in the corners, but not with this brush. I want to go back to our normal soft edge brush. So I'll just slide up here and click on that. This is a fully soft brush. If I want full blurring, then I can paint with 100%. So I'll tap 0. Let's see what that looks like. I'll shrink this down a little so I can use a big brush. Big soft brush makes transitions look smoother because that soft edge of the brush is helping you out. Very subtle. But again, a subtle difference that adds some more character to this fabric where we're going to embroider this logo. Alright, one more thing. Let's vignette this a little bit. And we can do that very quickly. If we go to the Adjustments panel, hold Option or Alt and add a Levels Adjustment layer. Go ahead and set this Levels Adjustment layer to Multiply and press OK. Now we get a darkening effect. It's across the whole thing. I don't want it across the whole thing. I just want it in the corners. So I'm going to Command or Control I the mask, inverting it, hiding it, and then I'm going to paint my vignetting in. Now that's a little bit dark. I'm going to go with maybe 80%. Make this even smaller and use a really soft brush. Yeah, that's looking better. I feel like it's all a little bit too dark, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back to, say, 60%. I can always change my mind later because we can always paint on this mask at any point in time. And then in the middle here, I might even want that to go a little bit darker, so I'll go with maybe 20% and I'll just paint over this area through here. Out here with that 20%, I am going to darken these corners just a little bit more. So you see, you can continue to build your effect. You can do whatever you want. It's a mask. It's beautiful. Alright, so we have our vignetting effect. So we were able to take that pattern that was generated in Filter Forge and turn it into a beautiful brown fabric pattern with lots of character. Now let's add our logo. And we're going to do something nice here. This is really fun. We're going to put some type on a circle. So let me show you how this is done. We're going to go to the Ellipse Tool. I'm going to hold the Shift key Oops, actually, let me show you one thing. Before I hold any keys at all, I want this to be a path, not a shape. Very important. I want this to be a path. Now I'm going to hold the Shift key and I'm going to drag out a circle. I can move that circle as long as I don't lift my finger from the Shift key, which constrains this to a circle instead of squishing it like an ellipse. I can hold the mouse, the Shift key, and add in the space bar, and I can move this around. So let's just say we want to go with maybe that right there. I don't know if that's the right size, but that's fine. Alright, so we have now added a path in the shape of a circle. We're going to use this to wrap our logo around it. So let's go to the horizontal type tool. I'm going to pop into the character panel, which again you can see these all listed alphabetically right here. And I want to go ahead and reset the character. So that's resetting everything back to the defaults. That's a nice starting point. Now here in this character panel, let me go ahead and choose my typeface for the original clothing part of this. So I want my typeface to be, and again I just sort of looked around and experimented to find one that was close. So I'm typing in Gill, and now the one I ended up going with is Gill Sans SemiBold. And after some experimentation I decided I wanted it to be 72 points. Alright, now what we can do is come up here into the options bar, and you see this button right here. We want to make sure that we are centering our text, because we're going to click right here on this point, and then it's going to flow out evenly from either side because we're centered. Now notice when I move my cursor over this path, it changes. So if I click right here and I turn on caps lock, at least for just a sec, and I type in original, now make sure in a moment you turn off caps lock, because it's just not something you want to keep on. It tampers with your brush. But it's okay to turn it on when you're trying to get all caps letters like this. So I've got that. Now I'm going to hit the check. And I really want to create more space between these letters. So I can come over here in the character panel. This is the area that sets the tracking. So if I slide this to the right, like that, you'll see that it spreads out the letters. It increases the space between them by working with the tracking right here. So that's looking good. Now what we want to do is add something down here, but you'll notice when I hover over the path down here, I'm not getting that changing cursor. And so in order to get that cursor to change, I need to go to the Paths panel, once again alphabetically listed, and I need to click on my work path. Now when I come down here, I get that wonderful cursor. So I'm going to go ahead and click on there, and I'm going to type in clothing, just like that. And I'll hit the check to commit that. And you'll notice that clothing, actually good time to turn off caps lock, although we may use it again, but just go ahead and switch it off. Go ahead and take clothing here, and we need to flip it up onto the top of this path, this circle. It's down below at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to activate the direct selection tool. See how it gives us this cursor? Now when I'm out here in the word clothing and I drag up, ta-da, look at that. There we go, that's pretty much centered. It flips up onto the top of the path, but you see this one's on the outside and this one's on the inside now. Real quick fix for that, we'll go to the character panel, and this is the baseline shift. If I take it in the negative direction, it starts to move that outside. And now it's sitting exactly where I want it. Pretty cool. So you can actually wrap text onto a path. In this case, we worked with a circle. All right. Now I want these to be rotated. So I'm going to go into the Layers panel. With this layer is already active, let me shift click on this layer. And I'm going to choose Edit, Free Transform Path. And I'm going to go outside this handle and rotate this. Now let's keep an eye on this number because we're going to be using this number again. Let's rotate it, say, about 11. I mean, I guess I could type that in. That's fine. Minus 11. And then let's hit the check. And let's remember minus 11. You guys help me remember that. So that rotated both of those around. I also noticed there's maybe a little extra space right here. So I'm going to go to the word clothing, take my horizontal type tool, and I'm going to insert right in here. And now if I press Option on the Mac, Alt on the PC, and use the left arrow key, I can close down, that's what's called the kerning, which is the space between the letters. I can close it down just like that. And I'll hit the check. Alright, I'm happy with the way that looks, at least in terms of the layout of it. Now let's add some other type. Alright, so we're going to, with this horizontal type tool active, we're going to click outside of this area so we don't start editing these things. So we'll click right out here, and we're going to type in something else. We're going to type in NYC for New York City, and we'll hit the check. Now I'm going to go ahead and drag that down. It's going to come into here, but I want it to be smaller, so I'll go back to that type tool. The NYC layer is active, so if I go into the character panel now, I can change all of this information in here. I'm going to make this 40 point and tap return or enter. There we go. Now let's rotate it with an edit free transform. Go outside its corner and drag until we get -11 up in the field above, or something close to it. And we'll hit the check. Now I'll use the move tool here and just drag that into a position where I think it might look good. Does not need to be perfect here, but let's go with that one right there. Now I want to duplicate this layer. I can do that with a Command or Control J. I drag it down to right here, and I want to grab that type tool, slide over top of this, and we'll type in company with a period at the end, and we'll hit this. Now this one I want to size as well. So again, with this layer active and with the type tool active, we can go right into the character panel here, or you can go into the options bar if you want to go up there too, that's fine. And we're going to change the size of this. So we're going to go to maybe 45 point. And let's close down the tracking. So we'll go about 200. And I want to pop right in here, and I'm using Option or Alt and the left bracket key to bring that period closer. I'll hit the check. Now let's move that into position, maybe right there. And we can move these all around. They're all on their own independent layers. It's wonderful how Photoshop works. We're going to add a couple of lines. So these things that you see right here, we're going to add those. So we'll go over here to the rounded rectangle tool. And unlike the ellipse a moment ago, where we were working with path, now we want to work with shape layers. So we'll go with shape layer. Let's go ahead and swap our color here. Actually, that did not change the fill. Oh, there it did. There we go. We want black in the foreground, or you can click here and just get a nice black color. And although I don't even think your color matters because we're going to be applying a bunch of layer styles to this, I'll go ahead and drag out a little something something right there. All right, I'm going to take this layer using the move tool. I'm going to drag it over to here, and we're going to transform it. So I'm doing Command or Control T to get to that very quickly, and we are going to rotate it, you guessed it, -11. Hit the check, and there it is. Now let's duplicate that layer. I'm going to show you another way to duplicate. Command or Control J is great, but you can also Option or Alt drag the actual element. There we go. Using the Shift key and the arrows to adjust it very subtly right there. Good. Alright, one more word to add, and then we're going to get into these fancy fun layer styles, which are really cool. I had a lot of fun learning about them. There we go. Alright, now one more word. I'm going to go to the type tool. I'm going to click out here, and I'm going to type in Hustlers. Hit the check. And I want to change that. So with this Hustlers layer active and the type tool active into the character panel, we want to go with a different typeface. So I'll double click here, and I have one from one of those design deal things. This is called Insomnia. Hey, why aren't you there, Insomnia? Insomnia, there you are, Insomnia Regular. And there it is. Now we definitely want to go substantially larger on that. So let's say 140. And we want to take all of the tracking out of it. So I'll get rid of that. I'll make it 0. Now I'm going to move this in. And this one, unlike the others, does not need to be rotated the same amount. And again, I'm just basing this off of that design I saw that inspired me. And now I'm trying to find a way to mimic it. So we're going to Command or Control T, rotate this around. We're going to go a little bit farther this time. Too far. There we go. Tap Return or Enter, and there it is. So take that NYC and move it down just a touch. There. And the Co, we'll move that right into here. Maybe up a little. There we go. All right. Now we're really going to have some fun. We're going to create threads, and we're going to apply them as a layer style, a really kind of fun, sophisticated layer style. So let's make a new document. File, New. Same size as lovely. All right, and in this document, I want to make sure we're working with default color. So I'm going to tap D or click here to get my default foreground and background colors. I'm going to choose Filter, Render, Fibers. Filter, Render, Fibers. Now, I have the same values in here that I actually ended up going with. I went with a variance of 24. You can see what that does. So you have to decide what kind of, it's real smooth, clean fibers there. Get a little rougher up here, a little rougher there. You have to decide what you want. You might not want 24. You might want something smoother and cleaner, because as I look at that, I'm thinking, I'd like to try that. In fact, I'm going to go with, I'll split the difference. I'm going to go with 20. And then the strength determines kind of how much contrast there is. Really pops those threads out of there. So I'm going up to the top. I'll click OK. Now I want to rotate this because I want my fibers to be flowing this direction. So I'm going to rotate it. But I can't rotate a background, so I have to single click on that lock to unlock the background. And then I can choose Command or Control T. If you want to see your handles, press Command or Control 0. And then let's rotate this until we think it's about the right angle. Let's go with that. I'll say that's good. I'll tap Return or Enter. And we want to crop this meaningful part out of here. So we're going to use the Crop tool. I have nothing set there. You can hit Clear to make sure there's nothing set. And I want to drag this handle and this handle in at the same time. So I'll hold Option or Alt and I'll drag this in just like that. And I'll come to this handle and I'll drag it in, and we'll have this right here. I'll hit the check. We've got our crop. So these are our threads. You're looking at them right there. Those are our threads. Okay. Now we want to define this as a pattern. So we'll choose Edit, Define Pattern. Go ahead and call it Threads, and click OK. All right, you can get that out of there. You're done with it. Now we'll come back over here, and we're going to start applying this as a layer style. So we'll go to the word Original, and you can get layer styles. From here. Or you can get layer styles by choosing layer style. And the one I will first want to work with is a pattern overlay. All right, so the pattern overlay automatically defaults to the most recently used pattern, not the one I just defined. So I'm going to go to the one I just defined, which is right here. And now I'm going to change some values, and I think I may have the ones locked in that I used last time. So normal blend mode, 100% opacity. And I want to scale it to 50%. So notice that you can scale this up and down. You can actually scale your threads. Wow, I like 100 right now. See, I'm changing my mind as I go. And that is what the creative process is all about. Let's go with 100. Let's see what happens. I'm off script. Oh my gosh, this could be crazy. But anyway, we're going to go with 100 scale. And now we're going to change some other layer styles here. Layer styles are wonderful because they're totally non-destructive. You can change your mind. And the more you experiment, the more you're going to make friends with these, and the better your designs are going to look. So now I'm going to go to Bevel and Emboss. Notice I'm not checking that box, which just turns it on. I'm clicking on the words, which turns it on and allows me to edit it. And now in here, we're going to go with an inner bevel. We'll go with smooth. Let's see, depth 240. These are all locked in from last time. We'll go with down. Let me just show you here. I'm going to move the depth so you can see the change. It's really subtle, actually. Can't see a whole lot of change going on there. But you can play around with these and see. Let's try the size and see what happens. So you can see the change there. You can go up, down. So you can see the difference in the look you're getting. So I'm going down. I'm going with a size of 10. No softness or no softening. Let's set our angle a little differently here. I'm going to set this to a value that I worked with before, 51. That's our angle of the light. And then we'll go with the altitude of the light at 21. Here where highlight mode is set to screen, and we'll go ahead and use 66. So that controls how bright that highlight is and basically how far this stands off of the fabric, how much of a bevel there is. And then here with multiply, we'll go ahead and set that to 21. Again, play around with these. It's really going to show you. So all right, so we have that look right there. But as you can see, we need to make some additional changes in here. Let's go add a satin overlay. So I'll click on the word satin, and we want to work with a specific color, and I just played and played until I found kind of the color that gives me a nice gold look, and this is it. You can see the values in here. Yours may vary, but this is 204 red, 179 green, and 133 blue. I went with Vivid Light. I tried all these other ones just to see how they would interact, but I ended up going with the Vivid Light, and it kind of gives me this nice gold thread. And then our opacity here is set at 50. Let's see here, Vivid Light, our opacity is set at 50, our angle 117, distance 50, and size 79. So those are the values that matter. If you're on a high or low res document, you'll need to adjust these. All of this stuff here, by the way, can be saved, which is really nice. You can save these layer styles once you come up with one that you like. I'll show you how to do that here at the end. All right, now we're going to go on to gradient overlay. This controls the light hitting it, and we're going to go with soft light blend mode. We are on a 100% opacity and a white to black gradient. We're going to go with reflected. You could do other types, but reflected is a gradient that does what you see right here. So the light is in the inside and it gets darker on the two outsides here, the top and the bottom. We're going to go with an angle of 114 and a scale of 96. All right, and you can move this around. If you want to reposition it, you can always move it around as well. Just like that. So you're moving the light through there just by dragging. So cool. All right, we've got our pattern overlay. Let's go to outer glow. And in here, we'll go with color burn, opacity of 8, noise 0. Choose a black color, which I've got here. Everything is locked in from my experimentation. Our technique is softer, spread is 0, and our size should be 29. That gives us that little outer glow. I'm going to show you how all of these are stacking up in just a moment. Now we'll go to drop shadow, and I'll do it one by one. We'll go with multiply and black, opacity of 36, angle 51. Global light is checked here. We'll go with a distance of 17, spread of 0, and a size of 8. So let me show you how all these stacked up. So let's just switch a bunch of them off. We started with that basic pattern overlay. Now we're going to switch on the Bevel and Emboss, which give us a little more depth there. The satin gives us our color. The gradient overlay gives us a nice light coming through there. The outer glow, really subtle, but it gives us just a little darkening around the edges. And then the drop shadow, again, very subtle, but it gives us a little bit of an effect. And overall, that just went from here to here. And let me look at one thing, because I remember I changed this pattern overlay. Let's try making this 50%. Which do you like better? Kind of depends on. You want to be viewing subtle effects like this at a magnification of something equal. 100% is ideal, but if you go to 50% or 25%, you're going to get a fairly accurate look, but 100% will give you the absolute best view. So there's up at 100%. See the threads? There's 50%. Whoops, here's 50%. Actually, hold on. That's 100%. That's probably more detail than you'd ever see. Here's what you would see on a printed page. And then this is an OK viewing magnification as well. All right, so that's looking good. I'm going to press OK. Now, we want to apply that style to these other words here, and we want to do that really fast. So if I Control or right click right here on the word effects, and I choose copy layer style, and then I click on this clothing layer and shift click on the top layer, the hustlers, and I control or right click, not there but over here, I can choose to paste layer style. I don't know if that's off screen for you, I hope not, but it says paste layer style, and I just pasted those layer styles onto all those other layers. Now something else we can do that's really cool, if we want to make those edges look a little bit more rustic than with all these layers active, you can add in this one more layer. So I'm going to Command or Control click, not over here but right here, and I'm adding in the word original. So I have all the text layers as well as these layers active. I can change the blend mode to dissolve. Did you see anything happen? Why did I not see anything happen? Let me try this one at a time. There you go. It's just really subtle. Yeah, see how it's making those edges look like they're actual threads? Let me go really tight. So between here and here, dissolve. Very subtle, but also quite powerful. So now I'll activate this layer and then shift click on this one as I undid all those, and we'll go to dissolve. There we go. Now we got our nice edges there. Really cool. It's coming along. In fact, it has just about made its way to the finish. I wanted to show you one other thing. Oh, how to define the layer style. That's what it was. All right, so we've got this in here. If you like this layer style that you spent a lot of time creating, what you can do, double click here on effects, and in the layer style dialog, click a new style. Go ahead and name this, embroidered thread or something like that. And when you, let's see, include layer effects, yes. Include layer blending options, yes. That will include the dissolve mode, I think. And you can also add it to your library. Don't want to go into that, but it's fine to have these checked. Go ahead and name it, click OK. And when you do that, let's see, I don't have the styles available, so let's go grab those. Let me bring them up for you. Where are they? There they are. So when you define that, here it is. You can see, if I hover over this for a moment, thread on fabric is what I called it. I also did a brushed gold while I was playing around, but thread on fabric. So if you ever want to apply that layer style to something else, all you have to do is activate the layer that you want to apply it to, go into styles, and then click on that button, and it's done. All done for you. So really cool that you can save that off. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully you've learned some good things. I learned a ton of stuff as I was working on this, because I am really just starting to work a lot more with type now, but I haven't done a whole lot in the past. And I love that you can wrap type onto a circle like this, onto a path. You can even do it on paths that aren't circles. I love that you can use layer styles in such creative ways. Worked a lot with blending modes. We worked with filter forged seamless patterns. So we had a lot of fun. I did. I hope you did too. Thank you for being with me on the Photoshop Workbench. Have a marvelous day. Bye-bye.